But the most interesting story, the funniest, weirdest, strangest thing that I ever saw in an audition. Guten Morgen, everyone. Welcome back here in front of the blue sofa on this week's edition of Drink and Discuss. We're going to talk about auditioning for the musical Mamma Mia. It is the second episode of Drink and Discuss. If you're back here, I'm so glad you're back. You can do me a couple favors, just really quickly. One, of course, subscribe and press the like button. But the other one I would really like to know is, if you have landed here and you don't know me from the very unofficial travel guides, please let me know in the comments below. I'm just really interested to see where everybody's coming from and how you end up here. This series is called Drink and Discuss, where I sit down. My telephone thought that when I said this series, she thought I said, "Hey Siri." Oops. On this series, I sit down here in front of my blue sofa and we talk about something. Experiences from my life, and I've been around the world. We'll talk about topics, but no politics. And I don't know, this is only the second episode, so I guess we'll find out what this is about. But one thing that we always do while we're doing this is have a tasty drink. This week's drink is a spicy Chipotle Margarita that I just made. And since it's shortly past noon and I have literally had nothing to eat today, this is gonna be a fun video. Spicy. Actually, to tell you the truth, nowadays when I drink early in the day, which honestly very, very rarely happens. The last time that I've had a drink, I think at this time of the day, was probably in January, and it's now middle of April. But I've just noticed about me, and that was while we were on a cruise, I just noticed that if I have a drink this early in the day, I don't like get funny and fun. Daddy just gets sleepy. Does that happen to you guys too? Do you get like funny and fun if you start day drinking, or do you get sleepy? I have reached the stage in my life where I just get sleepy. So there's definitely gonna be a nap today. I promised you we would talk about auditioning for a musical, specifically Mamma Mia, and let me tell you why I am kind of an expert about that subject. I performed in the musical Mamma Mia for over 7 years. The original production of Mamma Mia was in the West End, in London, and that production was copied and produced in New York, and those productions were copied and then produced in Hamburg, Germany, which is where I live now. If you didn't know it, there is a really big musical, like Broadway in Germany scene here in this country. That is the reason I came over to Germany in the first place, and that is what I have done for almost all of the 21 years that I've lived here. And a little bit more than 7 of them were spent with Mamma Mia, the original German production, and then the production of that moved to Berlin. I was in the original cast. I'm on the original cast recording. I have the Platinum Album Award on my wall. It's a really, really cool part of my life and something I'm really proud of. After a couple years of doing Mamma Mia, I paid off all my student loans. I started out as a swing in the original company, and a swing is somebody who learns several parts and is like an understudy for the ensemble. And I had 2 covers of Pepper and Eddie, and so I was like understudy of Pepper and Eddie. Those are the friends of the guy who's getting married. Then I became assistant dance captain, and then I became dance captain. And for the entire time of the run in Berlin, which was almost 2 years long, so it was like 500 performances, I was a dance captain in charge of the casting and in charge of rehearsing with the new casts, the new actors, to get them ready to perform in our show. And because I had done the show so long and because I knew the show so well, I was also asked to assist casting a lot of the other productions of Mamma Mia in Germany and also in Russia. Yes, there was a Mamma Mia Moscow, and I helped cast that show. Since I'm going to be talking about Mamma Mia Moscow, I should have made something with vodka, but here we are with tequila. I'm sure Jose's not complaining. Mamma Mia Moscow was being produced around the time that I was getting ready to leave the Hamburg production of Mamma Mia to work on another show, Little Shop of Horrors. The original round of auditions had happened in the actual city of Moscow, and they didn't find enough people to fit the descriptions in the cast list. So they were sending out teams to a couple other cities of Russian-speaking countries to help look for people for this production. And I was sent with the team that went to Kiev in the Ukraine. And at this point in my Mamma Mia career, I had probably seen, I want to say, probably 400 people audition for this show. I had also rehearsed with, we never cast, 400 people. There were only like 32 people in our company, and not everybody always left at the end of every contract. So sometimes we were just looking for like 3 people, and sometimes I think the most people we put into the show was maybe 18 people at the same time. Maybe not that many. But for Mamma Mia Moscow, they were looking for an entire cast of people, plus understudies and swings. And I was sent to, like I said, Kiev to hold auditions there. For those of you who have no theater experience whatsoever, let me tell you a little bit about what the audition process is like from somebody who is auditioning. So somebody who's looking for a job. And then I'll tell you about what it's like to be on the other side of the table, the people who are deciding who's going to get the job. Normally, if you're an actor looking for a job, there are all kinds of ways to find out that auditions are happening. Either you have an agent who's searching for the jobs for you, or you can look online or in the trade papers, and that is where auditions are advertised and listed. And almost always nowadays you have to sign up for an audition. I don't think that it really happens like in the movie Chorus Line anymore, where they just like say, on this day, show up. I don't think they do that anymore. And if you know that they do, let me know. At least for all the productions of Mamma Mia that I helped cast, it was always by appointment only. You had to sign up, and then you were invited to come either to a larger call where it was just people who were all dancing together, or to a singer's call where you got a specific time and then you came in and then it was just you. So you find out about an audition, and then you ask to be seen, basically. You send in your resume, and your headshot is what it's called, so a list of your experiences and a picture of you. And someone on the team, most likely the casting director who knows the breakdown of what is being looked for at that time, will then decide if you are possibly right for one of the people in this description, and then will or will not give you an appointment. Very often, you will be also given something to learn. It might be part of a song, it might be part of a scene. If it's going to be choreography, then that'll be something that you'll learn at the actual audition. Hold on, my mouth's getting dry. When you go to your appointment then to show what you got, you will go into a room, and then there will most likely be a piano and a table and people sitting behind the table. And depending on what stage of the audition process it is, it will be less or more people and less or more important people. Sometimes the first audition is literally just the casting director and somebody who plays a piano, and the person on the piano usually has no say in the matter, or very little say in the matter. And then the next stage is called a callback, meaning you get called to come back again. And at the callback, then there's always somebody from the production themselves. And then at the final audition, and sometimes there is only one round, sometimes there's 2 rounds, sometimes there's 3 rounds, sometimes there's 4 rounds, sometimes it goes on forever. Forever? Forever, ever? Then the director of the show will be there, the choreographer or assistant choreographer, the dance captain, maybe the resident director, maybe the head stage manager, and definitely the casting director, and then somebody, the musical director, and somebody playing the piano as well. You can usually ask before you go into the room who is in there, how many people are in there, just to give you an idea of how it's set up. It's also good to know before you go in the room, is it going to be a big room, is it a small room, and when you go through the door, where are the people? I could make a video about like advice for going into auditions, but I want to talk more about what it was like auditioning for Mamma Mia in Moscow. To continue with how the process goes, you wait for your time, somebody will ask you to come into the room, you go into the room, you say hello, and then you present what it is you learned, either what it is they sent you, or sometimes they say, prepare something that you like to sing for us. You do what you do, and then you'll find out what happens next. Sometimes nothing. And sometimes you'll be asked to come back. And like I said, sometimes, but very rarely at like the highest level of musicals, like Broadway or Broadway in Germany or West End. Very rarely, it's just one audition. Almost always you'll be asked to come back again for something. It also very rarely happens that at an audition, they will offer you a job. That almost always happens later over the telephone. So, like you see in the movie Chorus Line, if you've seen Chorus Line, that I don't think that ever happens anymore, that they like do all the auditions on one day and then there's like 12 people standing there and they're like, so you've got the job, here, come sign the contract. It just doesn't happen like that anymore. So as one of the people who have been behind the table for hundreds of auditions for Mamma Mia and other productions I've worked on, I have sat behind the table for several productions that I've helped cast. These days are long and they can be really interesting or they can be really boring. You have to remember, if you work on a production of a show for 7 years, very rarely something happens that you haven't experienced already. Very rarely does somebody come to an audition who's singing a song that you haven't heard somebody sing before and doing it in a way that you haven't heard them do it before. And especially if you are participating in the round of auditions where people are sent the things to sing, then it's like literally you're sitting behind a table in a warm room and listening to like 40 people in a row sing the same song. And it's really difficult, or it becomes difficult, or let's say the challenge is staying present and really listening and really looking at this person when it's like number 40 who's singing the same song. And because most of them have gone to like the same 4 schools here in Germany. Most of them have learned like the same audition techniques, and they've learned a lot of the same like jargon and the same, well, to tell you the truth, a lot of the same songs as well. And so after several years of watching people audition in Germany, it became even more monotonous. And here's something that was really interesting about the experience that I had when we went to Kiev to audition for Mamma Mia Moscow. Because the training and just the whole culture there was so different. Those were the most interesting, most exciting Mamma Mia auditions that I ever saw. And let me tell you a couple stories from those auditions. But first, let's have a sip. Maybe I'll do this every time as well. ASMR ice cubes. ASMR ice cubes. Did it work? Did you get the tingles? Normally at an audition, you're sitting behind the table. Like I said, you know from a list who's coming in and what role they're auditioning for. You don't always know what they're gonna sing unless you're at the stage of the auditions, like I said, where people are only singing stuff from the show that they've been sent. And in Germany, people were usually very well prepared. They came in, stood there, said their name, said what they were auditioning for, said what they're gonna sing, they sang it, and then, sometimes we worked with them and sometimes it was thank you very much. And, that was the rhythm. And in Kiev, it was totally different because there were so many people who really didn't know what they were doing. They were maybe actors, but so many of them had never been through the process like we were used to on this team of people going out to audition. And it was just really interesting to see how they reacted to that and what it was they had prepared, if anything. For instance, we asked people who were singers to come and either prepare a song from the show, and it's all music from ABBA, people know that music, or so we thought, or from some pop music, but just a short part of it. As a rule, you should never go to an audition and be expecting to sing an entire song, like first verse, refrain, second verse, refrain. That never happens. You just don't have the time, and it's usually absolutely not necessary. After you've sung one verse and a refrain, the people who are watching the auditions, these are, professional people who do this all the time. And usually by then, you've seen everything you need to see to have made the preliminary decision if this person comes in question for the role or not. Sometimes that decision happens really, really fast, by the way, especially if it's a no. So one thing that was really interesting and really funny and also got sort of tiring about the auditions for Mamma Mia Moscow were that a lot of people came and they had prepared the song Gimme, Gimme, Gimme.
Gimme, gimme, gimme a man after midnight.
You've heard it, right? But they were singing Jimmy. So these are like people who I guess had never really heard the song. They didn't have a lot of English language skills and it hadn't been translated into Russian yet. And so they were reading it off the music and they just saw Gimme and they thought, okay, that must be Jimmy. And so they were singing the song as if they were singing about Jimmy, who is a man after midnight. So what is Jimmy before midnight? And the first time it happened, we all behind the table, we were like, elbowing each other and trying not to laugh. And then it happened again and we were looking at each other. And then it became like a thing. Like when people would come in and we would ask them what they were singing and they would say Jimmy, we would be like, oh, okay, another one of these. We didn't even correct people. We thought, there was no reason to confuse them if that's how they prepared it. Also, there was a guy, and I don't know what he was thinking, but he came dressed as a pirate. A pirate. To audition for Mamma Mia? Yeah. Maybe he was drinking margaritas at 12:30 in the afternoon. And actually, he did a really good audition, but the fact that he had dressed up like a pirate was just a little bit of a turnoff. But the most interesting story, the funniest, weirdest, strangest thing that I ever saw in an audition was this woman who was auditioning for the role of Rosie. Just as a reminder, because I'm sure most of you have either seen the musical on stage or seen the movie, Rosie is one of the friends of Donna, the mom. So Donna is the mom, and then she's got the rich friend who's had, like all the facelifts, and then sort of like the grounded, earthy friend, and that's Donna. Or no, Rosie. So this woman was auditioning for the role of Rosie, and she was a very interesting type. First of all, she was quite fluffy, large. She had big hips and very large, and she was wearing kind of like a corset. So she was like cinched and was really thin in the middle, and then she had her big hips and then and she wasn't dressed like a Rosie should be dressed, but just from her character and her type, she was a good fit for the role. And the first impression of her was that she was really funny, really full of life. It was really interesting. The moment she walked in the room, there was something about her, and that is really good at an audition. You don't want to be shy or quiet or reserved when you go into an audition. That ain't gonna get you the job. So these auditions were, which is very non-typical, they were actually in a theater. So the people who were auditioning were going up on stage and we were sitting out in the audience. That's actually the only time that I've ever had an audition like that, to tell you the truth, from being behind the table. When I was auditioning for West End musicals in London, they were like that. So she came in, we were immediately laughing, not only just because she was so fun, but because, she was wearing this corset. She was pretty overweight, and she was maybe 4'8". She was 140 centimeters maybe. And she told us, actually, she was speaking Russian, so there was a translator there. She was speaking Russian, and she said that she is a singer and a nightclub performer, and she has a cabaret act, and if it would be okay if she does one of the songs from her cabaret act. And we were like, yes, anything is better than Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy. So she gave her music to the accompanist, and the accompanist, they had their little conversation, and then she started. And she was great. She was dynamic, she was funny, she was singing in Russian, so we didn't know what she was saying, but there was something there, something very special. And we wanted to hear her sing some, a different style. So after a certain period, after, 16 bars or whatever, the musical director guy who was sitting next to me put up his hand, which is a sign to stop. And she kept singing, and he started doing this, and she kept singing. And the woman who was playing the piano for us, she also stopped. But this woman in her corset with her great big would not stop. And she had a staging, a choreography set up, so she was moving around and doing some turns and things like that. And like I said, we had no idea what she was saying. And The accompanist had stopped. We were all waving our hands to tell her to stop. And because she kept going for so long, then the accompanist, the person on the piano, just started playing her music again. And then finally, the producer stood up and was like,
"Please stop!"
And she stopped singing, but she kept doing her choreography, and she yelled out in English, "If I stop now, you won't see the part where I do the cartwheel into the splits." So we let her continue, but she didn't get the job. That's showbiz. Actually, we saw over the course of 2.5 days, we probably saw like close to 200 people at those auditions in Kiev. And from those 200 people that we saw, one single person got the job. So that'll just give you a little idea of what showbiz is really like. And when you're working at a high level of entertainment, how picky they are sometimes, and how sometimes it really doesn't even matter. Or what I mean to say is, if you go and audition for something and you feel like you did a good job, you did your best, and then you don't get the job, there's nothing you can do about it. If you work hard and if you train well and are talented and keep your voice and your body and everything in shape like it should be so that you are employable, then either you're right for the role or you're not. And let me tell you something, the people who are sitting behind the table when you go to an audition, they want you to be good. They want you to be the person they're looking for because they have a job to do too, and that is find the right people for this production. And so if you're good, if you're what they're looking for, that's better for them too. So just one little piece of advice before we wrap this up here. Didn't finish this yet. When you go to an audition, first of all, never make any excuses when you enter the room. Come into the room and be present, be aware, be happy, be friendly, because the moment you enter that room is the moment the casting process starts. And try to be a little bit original if you can. I don't mean like enter the room and like start throwing like, party streamers or something like that. That wouldn't be right for every show. But remember, those people behind the table have maybe been sitting there for several days at a time. I mean, with breaks in between, of course. Seeing people singing the same songs in the same room, in the same key signature, and anything you can do to stand out a little bit will be advantageous to you. For instance, like doing a cartwheel into the splits. I'm just kidding. Probably don't do that. Thanks for hanging out here in front of the blue sofa with me. Did you make yourself a spicy Chipotle margarita? Did you watch the episode of Mix It Up? Let me know in the comments below. And like I said, if you can hit that like button for me, that would be great as well. I look forward to seeing you back here next week in front of the blue sofa for another fun story. What will it be about? Come back next week and you'll find out. Cheers!